Welcome to the Mutual Friend Podcast with Ian McDanielsonberg and Brad Lesterado, and also Matt Smithberg.
So did anybody else bring anything that they have an opinion on? I feel satisfied.
You feel satisfied
with my
I saw a
opinion.
video about voting and how there's a different voting system where you don't. The voting system that we have now is
First past the post.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
it's a
think I
great
probably
idea.
saw the same video.
Yep. It's some like guy who does a bunch of like stats videos and shit.
Maybe.
There's probably only one
Yeah.
video of it.
Yes,
So,
I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure.
He did it like with animals.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was like-
Yeah.
King Cobra and,
Yeah, yep,
and
yep.
Queen Bee and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that'd be a great idea. Like, why don't we have that?
What I missed.
So
it. What was
basically,
it?
it's what is it? It's so it's you can vote. You vote for like your top 4 or 5 people, right, or something like that. And if you don't get if the top, how do I explain this? So there's us 4 running for president, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Be fucked.
or we'd be in great hands. And then let's say your wife votes for you first, right?
Okay.
But let's say nobody else in the world votes for you. Her vote won't go for you. It'll go for the second person who has at least 33% or something like that. So you get a vote for your top. You can vote for all the candidates. Well, you put them in order, and then
We actually.
so that way it
So-
doesn't become just a 2-party race.
So the difference is that's not first past the post. That's
Shit.
so first past the
Sorry,
post is
Brad.
what we have today, right? So
Oh, okay.
That's-
So that's what we don't want.
yeah.
Okay.
So I can't remember the name of what you're referring to off the top of my head, but that's where you get multiple choice. Basically, you're picking the top, 2 or 3 candidates that you choose for a given race, and then it's kind of a gradient system, basically. That, based on the numbers of votes, they were
Yeah. So if you don't get an X percentage, all those votes don't count, and they
Right.
get pushed into your second choice,
right.
and so on and so on.
What I think is interesting, I think it's the UK that does this. If 2 candidates get the majority of votes and it's such a even split, those 2 candidates are forced to work together in governing the country.
That sounds almost like what we used to have with the president, the vice president being the loser of the presidential race.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's better because I
Wait,
think
what?
the 2-party system here is just garbage. I
Well,
think it's what's
and
led to
the
our
way that the
country, so-
2-party system has evolved, that wouldn't actually work in this day and age because they're so adversarial.
But they wouldn't have a choice. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that they
Yeah.
don't have a choice. So, for example, in the UK, if you have, say it's the same as here, you have your red and you have your green, or your blue, and the vote is very, very evenly split. Like, it's a 51-49 kind of thing. Like, the real only way to represent the people, which is really what should fucking happen, is those 2 candidates don't have a choice but to work together. Otherwise, they don't get in at all.
Mm-hmm.
I
So-
forgot what the term is called when they can't when no candidate gets in. There's a name for it. But I mean, I think
Wanker.
that,
Sterility.
what?
Wanker. That's what it's called.
Wank.
No.
Matt,
Go back to this now.
You what, mate?
Wanker.
Go back to this.
I'm sorry. What kind of accent was that, Brent?
Shut up.
Matthew wants shenanigans.
Shut
He just
up.
wants to get slapped the fucking mop it.
Mop it.
Yeah, mop it.
Ian, what are you looking up? You looking up the?
A couple things. I'll get to it in
Cheese
1 second.
How to
while
kill
he
yourself.
smiles while he wants.
Yeah.
Tell you what.
Cheese. I don't like
Blood
it.
Cheese.
monkey. You
Cheese makes me
monkey.
fat.
Stop acting.
I like cheese.
I like cheese.
I like cheese.
I'm Brad. All my accents turned together. They mix into one
Yep.
awful accent.
I like to do that a lot, where it's just like I start at one, and by the end of the sentence, I've gone through about 3 other accents.
It's kind of a talent.
No,
you can make
it's-
that a talent. You can make that a
I
talent.
think it's a disorder.
Give
of
yourself some
sort.
credit. Slowly having a stroke.
Back when I was the governor of California, I would have never had Matthew in my office whatsoever.
You guys. Do it, Sal.
Do what?
Do it. Christopher Walken.
So here I am at Ian's house doing this podcast with Brad and Matt, who thinks bubbles are stupid. You know, I came here expecting intelligent conversation, and I don't know where things went wrong,
Bubbles.
but that's the way it goes, you know.
You guys.
But there comes
Can't
a
do it.
time in life when you have to think to yourself, what are my priorities?
I don't know who that is.
So the voting method that you're referring
Can't
to, Matt,
handle who this is.
is called instant runoff voting.
That's an awful name.
There's
but
also another one that's similar called
Rather premature.
cumulative vote. I think that was what it was. Hang on a sec. Yeah, cumulative vote.
I thought you threw something.
He's got a gun! Get down!
Did that invade your bubble, Brad?
Nope, I have my bubble up.
I'm gonna find
You
a way
can't
through
get
that bubble.
you can't get
I'm gonna find a way.
can't get in it. You
I need
can't
to
get in
feel
my
power
bubble,
over you.
bitch. It's my bubble, bitch.
I don't know if you know this, but Matthew's an anonymous. He's elite hacker.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
like in Swordfish?
like in Swordfish.
Yeah. I'm gonna sword your fish.
That sounds hot.
So who's
I'm
gonna go
turned on.
see? Speaking of movies, who's gonna go see?
Hacksaw Ridge. I will.
Oh yeah, Hacksaw Ridge.
Trainspotting too?
So I realized how many movies are coming
Doesn't
out.
come out until January or March.
Train
Or-
spotting?
yeah.
So I realized how many movies are coming out.
It's
in the
Oscar
next-
season.
Can
It starts now.
I?
So
I know, but can I?
Nope.
can Ian talk?
Can I?
Nope.
Oh,
Now you know how I feel.
okay. I'll just
How
go
you
home.
feel? No one interrupts you. It's
You go
just you
home.
who, like, the minute someone says 3 words, you're immediately like,
I'm not interrupting.
I
I'm
know,
just
but
raising
you
my
just
hand.
So-
Stop
politely.
interrupting.
Politely.
So
You know what movie I want?
Brad.
Oh my god.
Sorry, Ian. Go ahead.
So Doctor Strange and Hacksaw Ridge come out this week, which come out tomorrow. Which
Today.
Yeah, I'll be
well,
seeing
tonight. Yeah, I
Doctor
guess
Strange
technically
this.
today.
I could have
this
gone and see one of them.
weekend.
Now I'm talking with you idiots.
Yeah, I know.
I'm debating whether I want to see Hacksaw Ridge.
I really want to see it.
Why are you debating?
Because
Are you against Mel Gibson?
well, I
Don't
don't
you dare
really
say that.
sit well through movies that are too preachy.
this is
What,
pretty.
what do you mean?
Are you
From
saying
what I
preachy?
understand, this movie is not very preachy.
Okay, well, there was one review I was reading where it made it sound like it was. So that's
Preachy how?
Very religious.
yeah,
Or
like-
are you saying preachy in a way that it
Because
preaches
the main character's
anything.
morality. No, like I
preachy
like
in a way of religion, or preachy in a way of
religion.
overhandedness?
of religion.
Okay.
Not that I have any problem with religion or anything, and I would not consider myself an atheist, but I'm not a religious person, so like I've passed on seeing movies that I knew were going to be like that
So-
because I couldn't sit through them.
So the main character in this movie is a conscientious objector, and he's that way because of his religion. I think he's just Christian.
Yeah, I think
don't
it's
know
just
what,
yeah.
I don't know what sect or whatever it is,
But
anyways,
it's a fascinating story for sure, though.
yeah,
That's why
right.
I kind of want to see
and
it.
it's based on a true story in that I guess it's very, very deeply based on a true story, not like loosely based like a lot of movies are. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's supposed to be very, very good. From what I've heard.
Apparently, the battle
Well-
scenes rival Saving Private Ryan.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That it's the best war movie since Saving Private Ryan. I'm like, you're talking it up, and I don't want to go in with high expectations because Saving Private
Now
Ryan.
you're talking
was
it up.
Fucking, like, such
War
a good
as hell.
movie. Like, I also want to see it because I like World War II. I don't like World War II. I'm fascinated by World War II history, and I'm fascinated by like World War II movies and
Me too.
stuff like that. So
Same wavelength.
you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna go see Hacksaw. I've completely decided.
Oh, I'll probably just rent it. On that note, I have a question that just kind of sparked in my head because we kind of mentioned this whole religion thing and all that stuff. Do you guys think a widely accepted cult can be called a religion?
Depends on.
Well, what do you-
I
is
think
it based on a
that's-
well,
spiritual
like,
belief?
I love how all
When-
three of us are like, well,
Okay, so I guess the question is, when does a cult become a religion?
I think, doesn't it?
I would say that at any point, because you can. So as long as you have a system of belief, which doesn't have to involve a god, right? I mean, it doesn't.
It could be anything.
It's
Right.
an organized group.
Well,
religion itself
yeah,
is
so,
an organized
yes,
group.
I would say
Ground of belief.
To be a religion, do you have to do, like, to be a business, you have to do something? Like, I could sell whatever I want, but it's not technically a business.
Well, so
do you have to do something
you
to
don't-
become a religion?
There's no like governmental process for
Okay.
becoming.
So you don't have to, like,
a
submit
Well,
papers.
There is
you
if
know.
you want exemptions for
Yeah.
taxes,
Well-
right? But that's a different
Yeah.
to
that's a different
to have
thing,
the
yeah.
official title, that it may be one or the other, but you can be considered a religion again if you decide to create an organized group. Like it's the difference between religion and spirituality or ideology. Like I have an aunt who's an actual pastor of a church, and she will straight up tell you religion is a man-made thing. Like it's an organized group because these people decided to organize, whether in an official state recognized capacity or not. But it's around this spiritual belief or set of beliefs, so that it's. I think cult and religion can be synonymous. It depends on your point of view, and I think cult kind of is more of the negative connotation of like we see this religious group as a cult, so they're
This
not good.
is the smartest thing Brad has ever said.
Really?
I agree.
So
I
what?
got your back
but,
down.
But based on whom though? Who gets to
You.
decide?
I get to decide.
Again, it's
So I could
it's
call
kind of
the
a.
Catholic Church a cult.
I could.
I'm
yeah.
not.
What are you going to do about
I'm
it?
not sure what the actual like English word definition of cult is, so that might give some
Just stop.
information. But
You're good.
again, it's kind of
You're good.
bear with me. It's kind of like in Star
Let him
Wars.
talk then.
Star Wars,
What
the
about Harry
Jedi.
Potter?
Some people saw them as religious cults.
Okay,
they
so-
themselves didn't see themselves
So
as a religion.
Yes.
because we
or
were
a
just
cult.
talking about cult and religion and the.
What about the Blue
strict-
Oyster Cult?
The strict. So the strict definition of cult is a relatively small group, or well, this is one of the definitions I should say. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. So definition of cult is a societal thing based on what people view as normal.
Well, yeah. So it depends on what I think. So if I
Right, so
think
if you think that
getting on
going to
your knees,
church every
yeah,
Sunday is not normal,
weird,
then
yeah,
then yes.
then a cult. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty counter to what the majority of society believes, probably,
Fuck
right?
'em.
Yeah, well, it all
But-
comes down to
but I mean, there's-
perspective and your set of beliefs. And like, I don't care if people go to church; it's not going to affect my
Well,
life. In
so
any
there's
way.
the church. I don't know the exact name of the church, so forgive me. But there's a Church of the Jedi Order or whatever that like. There's a legitimate
I'm
church
curious.
Oh,
that
yeah.
like believes in the Force or whatever, and like,
Oh.
that's cool. I mean, fine. If you guys believe in that, go for it. But again, it's your own personal thing, and so I would say to your point, Sal, it's anybody's call on that, right? Now, if you
That's
start
what it sounds like.
doing things that are outside of societal norms, you're going to be called a cult. If you are doing things that either people don't, have any idea that you're doing, which, we talk about Scientology here, but, then potentially you're a religion, but, and I'm putting air quotes.
Yeah, I mean,
but-
what I think what it boils down to really is what you call it.
Right.
So if you say cult, because cult has a negative connotation with it, people are going to take it in kind of an offensive way. If somebody says, "Oh yeah, I'm Catholic," I say, "Oh, you're part of that cult, huh?" They're probably going to get offended.
yeah,
Right.
It's just kind of the same concept as if if I call Sal stupid, he may take offense. He may
That's
take
not
offense.
the same thing.
No. You may take offense to it, but you may not. It's what I perceive you as, but that doesn't make me right.
I think ignorance is probably the better way of saying it, because
Yes.
stupid implies that like you don't have any knowledge, right? If you're ignorant of something, normally
No. I'm saying if I call Sal stupid,
Well,
I'm
and
well
that's-
within my rights to call him stupid, but
Right.
that doesn't make him stupid.
Right,
Just because I
correct.
call the Catholic Church a cult doesn't make it a cult.
right.
Yes.
It's what
Yeah,
I believe.
right,
If I
and-
believe he's stupid,
your belief isn't necessarily shared, right? And
No.
that's what you're getting
Yep.
at too. Is
Yeah.
that your belief is your belief, and that can apply to any situation.
That's
right?
just getting a bit weird though, because I could be like, "Well, this is a car."
Yeah,
When
that's your
I'm pointing
belief.
at the chair, at
That's-
the couch.
That's your belief,
That's
man.
I'm not going to say. Well, I will say you're wrong,
And I will say you're stupid.
and I will say you're stupid,
Right.
and I'll believe that. But you don't have to change your views,
Yeah, right.
idiot.
See, that's weird.
It's super
I
weird.
think that is weird.
It's best not to think about.
Oh, I'm just curious because, like, you know,
So what brought this question up?
oh, because we were talking about religions and all that kind of stuff, and it just got me thinking, like, well, what differentiates a cult and a religion? At what point does a cult reach official religion
Yeah.
status? Because there was a point in time when
It's each-
Scientology was considered a cult. Now Scientology is very widely accepted as, yes, it's a wackadoo religion,
Right.
but it's still called a religion.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, not a cult anymore.
Ridiculous.
So is there like
I-
a number of people that you have
yeah,
to have?
I would
So-
imagine-
It's totally a societal thing.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
so
it's
weird.
It's just that it's shifted in the eyes of people. Even
Yeah.
though people, I would say that largely from the people I, know and I wouldn't even say have talked to about the subject, but probably that I know would agree that it's more like a cult. And that's all dependent on how much you know or don't know about a given thing, right?
Right.
So,
Again,
that's all it is. It's really
Perspective and
knowledge.
interpretation
Yes,
and
it's-
evolution of language, because again, cult may mean one thing in like the dictionary, but we all associate the word cult with something bad. Like these
See, that
people
starts
are
getting a bit weird because now you're talking about language and how language creates reality, and then how that competes with our perception and stuff like that.
Oh my
It
God.
does.
Because
I've been
It's too late
noticing
for
that a lot.
Bullshit.
Well, no, it's not
lately.
bullshit. This is why semantics
When I say
are such a
bullshit, I
problem.
mean like
He's just tired of it.
it's
He just doesn't want to deal with it.
heavy shit,
Yeah.
which is interesting to talk about, but I may not have the capacity to talk about.
Well, that's
that.
why you can just sit there and we can look at you being quiet.
It's okay. You can go to sleep. We won't mess with you.
I
No depth on the
I
faith.
won't get too deep into that, but that's something I've actually been thinking a little bit about lately, of how, like, well, I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but, like, I could say a word that somebody was like, well, you know what the origin of that word means, and that's very offensive. Like that's not how people use it nowadays, though. And so at one point, does it shift from the old meaning to the new meaning, and is it ever a full shift, like a break to the new meaning as the language
Well, what are we
evolves?
talking about here, Brad?
Poop.
Well, I think
I don't know.
words
Seems like you have a very specific word
again.
in mind
They
that you
mean
No,
whatever,
I can't think of a.
Okay.
they mean whatever you want them to mean.
Well, no, that's
No.
how you get into
Well-
cults.
No. If I
Yes
say
and no.
hold the phone. If I call you stupid, you
Back to
take it
this.
as how yeah.
At the
Hang on.
You take it. You take it as your interpretation of stupid, or maybe I grew up learning that stupid meant brilliant and sexy. You're gonna get pissed, and I'm trying to give you compliments.
Well,
No,
This
no,
is an
no,
extreme.
no,
I
It's
have,
an
I
extreme.
have,
Hold
I have
on.
a response to this. I have a
Hold on.
response to this.
It's an extreme example.
Have you ever heard of a really magical book? Right, it's got all the words,
The
all the best
Necronomicon?
words.
Yeah.
All the
Everyone,
best
everyone,
words, all the
everyone
greatest
buys
words.
this book for all the greatest words.
Is it
has
called the
all
Bible?
books. No,
No, it's called a dictionary.
It's called.
I
fucking
know.
Dictionary,
Well,
man.
okay.
And the reason the dictionary exists is so that people can get clarity on what fucking words mean, so that you don't have this airy fairy
No,
bullshit.
yeah,
like
but
what you're
No,
describing.
like what I'm talking.
Okay,
what
but if
I was.
okay, hold on. If I were to say you're stupid, right? And it's what I believe is stupid. And what I believe is stupid is along the same lines as what you believe is stupid, but they're probably
There's
not
no but.
exactly the same.
What is it
No.
like? What does the
Here's
dictionary say?
here's
I
the
know what the
divide
dictionary
between.
says,
but
Guy,
you don't take the dictionary Harry,
Here's-
right? If you're Harry, if I call you Harry, you're that just because I call you Harry doesn't make you full of hair.
If he's Harry, where's
let
Sally?
let me provide.
Hold
the,
on, Brad.
The
Are you trying to
balance
back
point
me
of
up?
these. Sort of.
Okay, then hold the phone.
Oh my god.
Harry,
I'm holding my
That's
hand
fine.
up.
I held my hand
I
up
want
for a
Brad
minute.
to talk
Give me a
because you're
second.
not making any
No.
sense.
Harry,
I'm going to bridge
the gap here.
It's you have to be open. It's what you believe and what I believe. So if I
that's
call you
not how
no,
language works.
Yet, so if I were to shave every piece of hair off of me, but keep my mustache,
God, don't.
you could still call me Harry. But that in my mind, I wouldn't be Harry. But you could still call me Harry because I would have hair on me.
Okay, here's
So it's what you believe versus what I believe, but
You live in a very
allowing
Here's the
different-
problem.
reality.
Here's
Brad.
the problem with
different
that.
pages.
I don't know that it's belief so much as perspective.
Well, here's the problem.
Yes.
Because
At the end
you
of-
have a different perspective knowing that
same
you've
thing.
shaved.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brad.
That's-
But you know that you have a different perspective knowing that you have shaved
Yep.
all of the hair off your body
Yep.
except for your mustache.
Yep.
Unless Sal
And
sees
the-
you naked, he's not going to know that.
Here's the problem.
But that's
If-
you guys get the point though.
No,
it's a
I
matter
don't.
of
You're-
perspective.
Matt,
Yes,
Matt,
Sal,
Matt,
you
Matt,
get the
Matt.
point.
No, I don't.
Matt.
Don't be stupid.
and I think this really applies mostly to things like slang and figures of speeches. But what the problem is like, yes, you can have two different understandings of what this means, but at the end of the day, if you're intending to speak the same language, the very purpose of the language is to communicate what you mean.
Yes.
And if there is that disconnect, that's the problem. And that's kind of why I was wondering, like, if you have a word or like a slang term or something that like its original meaning and what it was derived from
Like bogus.
is offensive, or like gypped, or that's probably not a good example, but can there ever be a full break from the original meaning to how most people use it today if it's evolved, if there are still people who are mindful of its original meaning and people who are ignorant of it and have a whole different meaning, but at the end of the day, they're both speaking English with the intent to communicate, and that's kind of the problem. Like, both what Matt was saying, what Sal was saying, technically are both valid. It's that issue of they're both trying to communicate with the same language, and you have to be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the solution problem
Sort of
problem.
Yeah.
to
Well,
the
I mean, that's
issue.
why the dictionary has
Clusterfuck.
to get updated so often, right? There's new words all the time.
Well-
What's your handle, Brad?
And
My handle?
Yeah, what's your handle?
I got my handle right here.
Right. that's
So-
but you know what I'm saying, right? Like your handle is like
My
Mega
title,
Schlong 244, whatever it is
Food
on
the
Xbox
Eater.
Live.
Food the Eater. That's my handle.
But you get what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Like handle, it's like you're not a piece of furniture.
Right.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
if you were to ask my wife handle, she'd be like, "The fuck are you talking about?"
Right.
so I mean, I think that's
So it's
again,
all about your
it's-
perspective.
It's
No, it's not. That's what Ian said.
Well,
You're just trying to steal what he said to make yourself
but
look smart.
I think it is perspective, and I think
perspective, that's exactly
I
what-
think
that's
it's a
what I was
mix
meaning.
of perspective and I don't want to say ignorance, but that's kind of
Knowledge
applicable.
base.
Misunderstanding.
Well, knowledge base is one thing, but if the definition has either been altered or changed, or if you're not aware of the technical definition of a word, right? If
perception might
'cause-
be a better
well-
word than perspective.
perception is So
Please.
so there's something to also be said for inference, right? So if I infer that a word means something and I don't go to look it up because of a situation I'm in, and I glean enough detail to infer generally what that word means,
Yeah.
and I don't look it up, I now have a definition of that word in my head that may not be correct. So I think that's where inconsistencies in vocabulary come from, somewhat, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a societal thing where words get thrown around and they may not even be used correctly, and then someone either infers or learns that word from someone else who's maybe using it incorrectly, and continues to perpetuate that, right?
Or as a subversion of that word. as
Right,
well.
right, or just a deviation of what the original definition of the word is.
Right.
So I think that's probably more so what we're getting at with cult and religion than anything else.
Yes. Because, I mean, does anybody know the exact definition of stupid?
Lack of intelligence
I bet
and
you that's
logical
not
reasoning.
it. I bet you that's not it.
Well, that
Which if
might
we're-
not be the Webster definition.
That's my point, is that we
Right,
don't know.
right,
So it's
exactly.
what
Well, we don't know because we're
well,
not.
and
That's
like,
my-
I-
that's
like
my
I
point,
said,
though. That's my point.
That's fair. That's exactly kind of. That's more or less what we're getting at here. Is that the definition was inferred, right? So
Yes.
we're getting the definition from some other piece of knowledge that we have in our history.
Yes.
We're not getting it from Webster.
Yes.
Brad was right, by the way.
Okay.
The
Is that what it says?
The official definition of stupid is as used as an adjective is lacking intelligence or common sense.
That I'm going to take back my previous comment.
All right.
That is the smartest thing you've ever said.
Synonyms being unintelligent,
Cinnamon is a
ignorant.
spice. You idiot.
Right.
But
Idiot.
ignorant,
Dense, foolish, dull-witted, slow, simple-minded, vacuous.
Are you
vapid.
explaining
There-
Brad?
they're
So-
also.
So here's the other
Shut up.
here's the other thing, and back to inferences with words, and in particular with cult, right? So someone at some point, and I know the definition of cult now, but likely someone threw the word cult out when it didn't necessarily apply, or they threw it out in or attached it to something that it maybe didn't apply to, and it started being used that way. And so that's maybe the side, it's the other way that it gets used to define certain groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and kind of like something I said earlier, there's kind of a Venn diagram with this experience where on one side you have official English words with very specific definitions, whether you are aware of them or not, which goes into the overlap with, again, slang terms, things that people kind of, or a series of words that create a figure of speech that may have had one meaning at one point and then people started to use them differently and they've evolved, and those are a little more malleable and are allowed to be malleable in a way, except there are some people who cling to, no, this has its original definition only and you're offensive or you're completely off base. And so it's kind of that Venn diagram of, that overlap of words that we just misunderstand that still have technically their official definition, and words that technically never had an official definition, just an accepted one, and are they allowed to evolve?
So if you go back to the word gypped, right, which is what you kind of were referring to earlier.
that
I
was
think
a bad example, but it was the
No,
first
no,
one that
I,
came
Oh,
to
no,
that's
mind.
I think it's a good example
example.
because I think there are people that still will, that still use that in a. I wouldn't say there are people that use it in a negative way that it was originally created as, right?
Mhm.
Gyp refers to gypsies for those that don't know,
Right.
but that's again, if you use it around someone who does know where its original meaning came from, and they say, "Well, that's not really a nice thing to say because of X, Y, Z," that's one.
Breathing? Am I really?
Please stop. Please stop breathing, Brad. Hold your breath. All right. If they do use that word, not intentionally meaning it to mean its original definition, they just said, I feel gypped by this. That's, you weren't intending it to be that way, but there's still the underlying reason that word exists. And if someone corrects you on it, I don't think they're doing a disservice to you or to the language by providing the backstory or
But then,
backstory,
like, if
history
you're
of
given
that
the
word.
original root of the term, are you then obligated to adhere to it and be like, I guess, like, if you got into the habit of using gyp, but you never think of gypsies when you used it, so you never mean it in an insulting way other than to the person that screwed you over, who probably isn't a gypsy.
Right.
Like, are
But
you
then-
obligated
then-
to
then
stop
may that-
using it and change your habits? And another word would be lame. I just thought of because lame, like a lame leg, kind of basically a handicap. But that movie was lame.
Here's a good
It
word
was
for
boring.
you. Retarded.
That's a good controversial example.
So we can say, I don't know, my old phone was retarded, so I got rid of it,
Yeah.
and then that's fine.
Right.
But when you're using it to offend someone, then it's not fine because you're using basically.
Well, there are a
essentially
lot
you're
of
using
people
a slur.
a lot of people
Well,
won't even
Yeah.
be okay with you using it to describe your technology.
Yeah,
or
and
your,
those people are wrong because we're going to go by dictionary terms here. We got to
Slow.
go by the agreed, the agreed
slow or low IQ.
version of what the dictionary says, because that's what the dictionary does. I mean, there's a whole facility of people who are dedicated to boiling down language to its actual meaning, and that's why we have
Fire
dictionaries.
retardant.
Yeah, fire retardant. Does it make the fire stupider? No, it slows and impedes the spread of the fire and extinguishes it, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I feel most people that say my phone is just retarded, they're not saying it's acting slowly, they're saying it's acting stupid.
Right.
So it becomes basically the equivalent of calling somebody retarded with the intent to
and
offend them.
it's all in the
if you
usage,
go,
right?
if you go
That's
even
an
further,
inference,
though,
right?
I mean,
That's
if you
inference.
call something retarded, you're saying it's slow, right? If you're taking it by its dictionary
But
definition.
you can also say that it's outdated.
That's fine, but either
Is
way...
it fine, Matt? Do I have your permission to use it
Yeah,
that way?
I don't care.
Yeah.
You can do it. So if you say something slow, you could also be using that as a derogatory term, too.
You can.
Yep.
Right. And it all
So-
depends on the intent of the word.
It depends on intent, and then
Your
going back to
perception.
what you said. Yeah, so it's perception or what you're inferring that they mean by
Yes.
what they're saying.
Yep.
And that's all. It's all perception. I mean, that's all what it is, and
Well, and
You
it's
can't-
how it's... And
you
it
can't
goes along with-
determine what other people mean when they say something.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can only ask them what they meant.
Right.
And if they tell you, "Oh, I just meant it this way," I mean, you can correct them and say, "Well, you shouldn't say that for this
Well,
purpose."
and part of it, too,
and
is
here's
how you
why.
feel about it, too.
Right.
I mean, people can call me stupid all day long. I'm not going to take offense to it.
Well, if they call you
Or-
retarded,
No, I'm not going to take offense to it.
well, but you might say, "Well,
no, I don't.
okay,
I
I'm not saying specifically
But yes,
you, Matt, but I'm
yes.
saying that
People-
What
like,
Matt's saying is that if he's not offended, no one else should be either.
yeah, right.
White privilege. Right?
And that's where we end this podcast.
Is that the title? White privilege.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, gee.
We'll have male privilege and white privilege. That'll
There
be
we
the
go.
two names of the podcast we've had.
That will not get a lot of downloads. I don't think.
Brown
That's fine, they
Card,
can stream
the
it.
podcast.
And then there'll be Sal.
Speaking of race, like that brings me on to another thing that
How do you
happened
guys feel
recently
about
with me.
like a foot race?
Is
I did one a month ago. I'm done for the year.
I'm just
This
gonna
isn't
throw it
about
out
you,
there to make
Brad.
these two
Jesus.
snap out of it.
What?
The N word, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We
That's
have-
when
we
that's
have-
when I was actually kind of in
Oh,
yeah.
no,
Right about
that
that.
didn't
All right,
even
so here,
come
check
up.
it out.
Come
So
on, Brad, say it.
For
Brad,
me
say it.
growing up,
No.
there was like nigga, right? So like, what's up, nigga? Like all your friends and all this
You're
stuff.
ethnic,
and-
so you can say it.
Yeah, I'm ethnic, so I can say it. But
We can't. We have white privilege.
it goes
This is
back.
the one
into-
privilege we don't have.
it goes back unless you're a wigger. That's different.
it's white
Wigger?
disadvantage. That's what I like to
There you
call
go.
it.
So okay, so you have niggas. You're like, hey, my nigga, blah 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 blah, and I grew up around a lot of black friends and stuff like that too. And then they told me they told me the difference is you calling each other niggas like calling each other homie or calling each other brother or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like what's up, dude or man. Hey
Yeah.
man,
I
that
say
kind of
dude
thing.
all
I'm
the
not your
time.
buddy,
Right.
pal.
Yeah, that whole shit. So, but they would say to me, like when they called someone nigger, what they were saying is that was an ignorant, basically, like amongst white people would be like the equivalent of calling somebody a white trash. That kind of thing.
Except
You're a
with
white trash
far
cracker.
darker
But far
connotation.
right because of all the history that the word has and all of that stuff. Now, which brings me to something really interesting that happened to me a few weeks ago, with someone, where that came up, and long story short, somebody was behaving in a very extreme fashion, and that word came up. Like they're behaving.
Somebody
like
white
X.
was
No,
behaving.
someone black was behaving in a very
I
very
see.
terrible way.
Who
And
said the word?
I did,
Okay.
but I was using it in conversation, talking about that,
Okay.
and they happened to come in the middle of the conversation and only heard that part. Right, so I was talking about historical stuff. and
Or
all
you were
this stuff.
talking about this subject.
I'm talking about
matter.
this subject, saying the difference between nigga, this and that, and then nigger, and all the stuff all the weight and connotation that comes with that.
Yeah.
And how a lot of my black friends back in the day used to tell me, nigga is fine because
Here's
it's
the
like this
difference,
and that,
yeah.
but nigger, like they would call it to, like if they saw somebody who's being a complete dick to everybody, it's like, man, that guy's an ignorant nigger. Like that's the way they would say it. And that's the way the difference was taught to me. Now, I'm originally from Chicago, and I don't know if it's a regional thing or what, but this person is from the East Coast. They're from, I think they're from either Georgia or they're kind of like that region. And when they heard that, they're like, why are you using that word? And, obviously Georgia, Carolinas, all of that. That's very, very much Alabama roots of the history that is associated with the word, all of that, slavery, yada, yada, yada. So they got very, very, like, they got offended, but they were also, like, really surprised to be hearing me say this stuff because they know how I am and I'm easy to get along with usually and all that stuff. So they're like, why are you saying this stuff? And, you know, why are you, do you realize how bad that word is? And I'll say, well, actually, I was talking about this, this, and this. And I told them, like, you know, back in my neighborhood, like, everybody was like, hey, nigga. I didn't because it was not my style.
It's easier just not to not.
It's easier not to, right?
Yeah.
But, like, you're like, oh, hey, what's up, nigga? You know, to me, they would say, I'm obviously not black, but they'll still be calling me that. And, like, my black friends and all that would be the same way. And then they taught me the difference and all that. And that's exactly what I was talking about. And then she happened to come in just as I was talking about the nigger part of it. And the ignorant this and the, you know, the more the trashy way that people would talk about black people, for example, even talking about other black people in that way. But she's like, we don't even use it that way. It's like, yeah, but only we get to say my nigga, my nigga, but no one says nigger. And I was like, well, that's not what I was told for years and years and years. And she
not
goes,
what
well,
you saw.
and not what I saw, not what I was told, not how I saw them addressing each other, especially if they were talking shit to each other, like aggressively. Like, you're just a stupid ass, you know, like all of that. Very different than, you know, hey, what's up, nigga? You want to go hang out?
Yeah, I just,
you know, it's like that
find
kind of
it
stuff.
easier just to not.
But it kind of reminds me of this whole
delve into that
gypsy
at all.
conversation thing that, like, the gypped, the word gypped, and the historical roots that come from that word and how it could be offensive to some people and all
Yeah.
that. But you yourself, you don't know that. You'll say the way you're used to hearing it is you've been ripped off.
Yeah.
But the ripped off portion is still offensive because it's coming from the stereotype that gypsies, all they do is rip people off.
Right.
I have a similar story, kind of a
Nowadays.
similar thing, like a word that I was using when I was little that I didn't know what it meant. And the word is cocksucker. Okay, when I was like between 4 and like 7, I used to use the word cocksucker a lot. And I'd be playing with my toys like, yeah, I'm going to get you, cocksucker. And like, you know, like, I didn't fucking know. This is what I
It's
thought.
fucking adorable.
When I was little, I thought it meant someone who like eats poop. You can see why I would make that.
So when did this definition change for you? That's
the
my
definition changed for me when my dad heard me saying it when I was playing.
question. Okay.
And he'd say, what did you say? I said, cocksucker. Like, this guy's going after me. He's like, oh, you know, and I was explaining to him the storyline that was going on with my little action figures, little army men. Like, oh, shoot him. He's a cocksucker. You know, like all this stuff. And then he's like, don't say that word. He didn't actually explain to me what it meant.
Sure.
He just, like, really inferred to me that it's a really terrible thing to say. And, you know, I didn't often have those types of interactions with adults telling me that words were bad or whatever. But even as a little kid, like, it's actually kind of funny. I used to, like, hate swearing when I was very little. I'd be like, oh, people shouldn't swear because the heart is good. And I'd say shit like this. Of course, now I fucking swear all the time.
Yeah.
So
Did you just say because the heart is good?
I did. I used to say that when I was little. When I was
That's
like 5,
hilarious.
I was like, don't swear. The heart is good.
Oh, I love that.
And then humanity showed up on the news, and I started paying attention to what the world is like, and I went, well,
And
fuck
you're
that.
like, well,
Yeah.
these fucking cocksuckers.
Look at all fucking cocksuckers.
Nowadays, in place of saying gypped, I say I just go straight for the punch. I got fucked. That's basically what I say.
But, you know, it's a funny thing. Like, I was here, you have this 4 to 7-year-old kid saying cocksucker, running around and play, probably even with my friends at the time playing it, like, I'm going to get you, cocksucker, you know, on the street. And other adults who may have heard me or whatever going, wow, what a rude little kid and all of this stuff. Meanwhile, I'm at home going, no, Mom, you shouldn't swear. The heart is good and all of this stuff. While I'm running around the streets yelling cocksucker all the time. And then it wasn't until my dad told me. I think it wasn't until I was about 10 or 11 that I actually found out what it meant.
Well,
And at that point, it dawned on me like, oh.
you know what that just made me realize? The word cock is another example of what we were talking about. Cock originally is chicken. It refers to a chicken. Now it's about somebody's dick.
Right.
Could it possibly be
now it's
that
both,
because
The pecker.
cock is a rooster, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The rooster crows when the sun rises.
The cock crows at
Yeah.
Cock-a-doodle
Has a cock.
Yeah. No.
I thought that was the morning wood.
Same thing. That's what
So,
I'm
yeah,
referring
a lot
to.
of different. See, it's wood,
I think
but it's not from a tree.
technically
From a
cock
very
is
big
still
tree.
rooster. It's just
So,
Well, yeah, but
rooster. The definition of
more
rooster is a male domestic fowl, a cock.
A cock.
there you go.
That guy's a dick.
It's ridiculous. I have a friend of mine.
You just yawned.
A couple of
into the
friends of
mic.
mine who are actually
No,
very, very. I don't know if religious is the right word, but they're very much of that kind of wavelength.
Those people.
Those people, they're very nice people. It's fine, but they can't say like they go out of their way to not say certain words. Like they can't say Asperger's
Why?
because it
That's-
sounds like ass.
oh my god,
okay.
Asperger's is an
So
actual
I said,
term.
hey, what's that one game with the Creed and the guy? He's called like Anzo or something, and he jumps off. And he goes, oh, Assassin Creed. I'm like, oh, you just said ass twice.
Assassin. Oh, ass in.
So they
Sounds
call
like
it
a
like
porno.
So they call Asperger's butt burgers.
Oh my,
Ass.
because that's
Really?
so much
'Cause
better.
That's so much better, right?
So much better.
You know, and I say, you know, so what do you call it when something is like, you know, ludicrous, but it's like, you know, it's like really like crazy and weird and like, you know, it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, oh, ridiculous. I'm like, you just said dick.
I think you were gonna say asinine.
So did I.
Asinine.
Yeah,
That's-
that's what I was
another
thinking.
I use that word frequently at work.
But even the name Dick, like Dick
Richard.
Clark. Hey, who is this guy? Oh, I don't want to say
Richard
his name.
Clark.
It's like, they don't even say that. It's like, oh, Mr. Clark. I'm like, but what's his name?
Really?
I don't want to say.
Huh.
Like, really?
Just
It's
say
like,
Richard.
why? You know, Tricky Dick. You know, all of that.
I'll show you a tricky deck.
I thought Brad was your new bitch.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
It's always been
New.
you.
okay.
It's been 5 years
Brad's my bottom bitch.
Oh, I see. Okay.
because it's nice and plump.
I'm 3 foot.
On that note, I think we should probably wrap up here. Sal, do you want to
We
do our
apologize.
outro?
You have been listening to the Mutual Friends podcast at Ian McDanielsonberg's house.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
stupidly awesome.
Second smartest thing you said all night.
What was the third? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Drawing a
Go
blank.
ahead and play us out, Ian.
All right. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please like us on Facebook and subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you're not already subscribed, which you should already be.
Don't send us hate mail.
Yeah.
Send
Keep
it
it to
to
yourself.
Matt.
No, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll read
Send
it.
it to Matt. He can handle it.
We'll
Bottle
have-
it up. Here's a tip.
We'll have
Bottle it up. Maybe throw it in the river. We get things a lot of things delivered that way. So we check the river frequently.
Especially when
I
We're gonna
accept
get rid of
Morse
bodies.
code only.
We'll have a mean tweet. Read the mean tweets, but we'll read mean mail. We'll call it MMM. Matt reads mean mail.
Wouldn't that
MMM.
be MR?
MR.
Nope, we're skipping the
MM.
read.
Wait,
Oh.
is it, you're gonna be 3M?
Nope, M3,
M3.
M
Yeah.
cubed.
M cubed.
Wait,
Cube
but
M.
that would be 9Ms. All right, we're getting off topic here.
snap.
We're gonna end this.
Well,
Good
that's
night.
night.
What?